Jerris told me that there was no prep that I could or should do, but like, I feel like I probably done some prep, guys.
To be 100% fair to Jerris and I, we should probably do some prep, but we never do. And it turns out way better that way. So.
As a farmer, though, I'm like a little offended of your like hierarchy of
Oh, you
landowners.
are a farmer?
Yeah.
Well, I don't care what they are, but
No, it actually seems like you do.
No, I don't care.
But I don't.
My kinfolk, my kinfolk be farmers.
Yeah, but
and
like,
my kinfolk be farmers. Let's talk about farming for a second. So, okay, so tell us what is your farming background
Real Deal
here?
Farmer podcast. You know,
we should change this.
Yes, grain and chickpeas. We're not actively farming it anymore. For like the first I'm the failing generation of I'm the fifth generation, but me and my brother's not cut up for farmers. But we still have the land there. And so we each get like,
how many acres are we talking?
Farming status, like 3,500 acres.
Holy cow.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's good.
Like decent, but like the most sort of that one individual, like my dad ran the farm for kind of until he retired.
So what kind of crop?
Chickpeas. There's like two varieties. Yeah,
yeah,
B90s and Kabulis. They make hummus. Largely,
so
and grain.
Just coming
out.
You know
what is funny?
Ears.
I never ate
Interesting.
until I was like in my 20s, despite having like basically access to an unlimited amount of chickpeas.
Well, ours in Oklahoma, we have soybeans, we have winter and summer wheat, and we have alfalfa. I think those are the three that we run through. Our family doesn't do any of the actual like farming of it. We rent out to local renter, or like we have renters, and so certain farmers have certain things that is just like exclusively theirs, and they're very knowledgeable with it. You know, obviously that's just their wheelhouse, and it's really fun to go out and act like I'm a part of it. Like I stand there in my cowboy boots with my hands on my hip, and I'm like, yes, yeah, you guys are doing great. Okay, I'm back to Oklahoma City, I guess.
Yeah. Like, how much did it rain? And like, you know, I'll ask like, some of the right questions, but like,
have you ever
ChatGPT it real quick?
ChatGPT, exactly. Like, is it that good?
Drew, have you ever operated a combine?
I've got to, like a little kid, I've got to sit in the combine as they're driving it. And like, I sit in the little jump seat behind and talk their ear off the whole time. And they are very nice about letting me do that. But they've never let me drive it, which is something that I hold I'm very upset about to this day.
So I've actually operated a combine.
Ooh.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. When I was 12, 13, somewhere in there.
So before having a driver's license.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But actually, so I was 12, 13. I don't remember which one, but it was harvest time. It was at my grandpa's property, the one who just passed away. So they all decided I needed to learn some work lessons. So they sent me out to help with harvest. And I slept on the couch at grandpa's house, and they would get me up at the crack of dawn, and they had a little, not little. Anyways, I would operate a combine. They'd put me in a field and they'd say, we'll check on you. This is how you do it. And then because there was equipment stuff that had to be moved around, they also needed me to drive a truck, which I had never driven before, but I learned how to drive on these back roads.
Yes.
Because it was out of necessity. And I was, red clay dirt road in the middle of nowhere, no stop signs, no there's nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'm driving, to go a mile or two. I'm terrified that the cops are that the cops are going to find me because I don't have a license and I'm too young and they're going to throw me in jail.
Yes, that was like my job too. It was just like moving the trucks to the right spot.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I have been a farmer for a few days.
I think it's really fascinating. That is kind of one of the things that we always like to go into, of kind of how we all have this common shared bond of how we got into caring about the land, caring about like these different farms, like understanding like what it means to different families. And I think that's really interesting that all of us kind of have that same little tie-in. It's a beautiful thing, honestly. I do think, Jerris, I think it's very nice that your family let you drive a combine, where I say that I get to sit in the jump seat. Like I can totally see these very just wonderful farmers giving me like the fake wheel to sit, and they're like, oh, you're doing it. And I'm like, I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm doing it. Left turn.
Yeah.
It's like
No,
the 4-year-old with the Nintendo controller
totally.
that's not plugged
Yeah,
in.
that's not plugged in at all.
But that's kind of actually how it is these days. Like tech has changed so much in agriculture too, that there's like everything is like the steering, everything's done by computers and like, geospatial stuff.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just a totally it's a
Yeah.
different world. Yeah.
Yeah, they use satellite,
Satellite.
and all that
And
stuff, and it's more
yes,
precise than actually what a person would do.
totally.
Yeah.
I always think about sort of the juxtaposition between agriculture and oil and gas. And it's just a different, really different world, I think, than we're in, a more regulated industry where lots of the people like we care more in oil and gas about safety and some of those kind of things where so much
Instead,
of
are
agriculture
you
is still
are you saying safety of not letting 13-year-olds drive the hauler truck? Is that
what
what we're kind of talking about?
heard that Jerris would have had a job of that level of importance on a rig at that age. Oh,
So I've done both. Like I've operated a combine. I've also been in oil field construction type stuff around this. The thing to know about me is I am not afraid of work, but I am really, really bad at it. Like I am so bad. I am a danger and menace to the people around me.
mhm.
I am a walking safety hazard on the farm or in the
Yeah.
field, whatever.
Businesses thrive when they have a wild card, Jerris. And I mean, it sounds like you are that wild card. That's fantastic.
I am.
Somebody has to be.
Yeah,
I
totally.
am. Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone to another episode of the Real Deal Landman Show. We have I don't know if it's like historical, but this is a game-changing episode of something that has never happened before. Drew, can you tell me what is happening right now with this episode that has never happened before?
The first thing that I can think of is most of the time I'm always so welcoming, bringing people inside this glamorous studio here. And
That's
you've
right.
come in a few times and we've had, wonderful guests sitting here all together. Well, this time we flipped the script and Jerris, you are sitting next to one of our esteemed guests, but you're not in Colorado Springs today.
I'm not. Have you? So you always brag about the fact that you're willing to travel to go do.
I do brag about that. I do brag about that. You're right.
Sit at home while you do the travel, but have you ever left the country?
On the rarest of rare occasions.
Mhm.
The rarest of rare. But for an interview, I would say the percentage that I have traveled is it's zero. Yes, it absolutely is zero.
Yes. So
Yes.
our first international episode,
Amazing.
first time that Drew stays home, and our first time that we have left the country and traveled.
It more boils down to I am not allowed to leave the country for several reasons that I don't want to get into. And Jerris was the only one between the two of us that is still a very upstanding citizenship record. So
right. In the
it's
country.
so amazing. So where are you on site today, Jerris?
I am in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I got all that right.
Yeah,
and
you did.
Okay, excellent. And I am sitting next to Miss Kyla Lawson of Stack Technologies or StackDX. What do you prefer people say? Do you like, because there's the company name is Stack Technologies.
Yes.
People shorten that to Stack, but the
Yes.
product is StackDX. Is all of it acceptable, or do you become deeply offended when somebody uses the wrong one?
All of it is acceptable. We went through a big rebrand recently. We used to have Petro Ninja was like our mapping side, and StackDX is our data platform, proprietary data side. And now we did full rebrand. It's just Stack everything. So internally, we just say Stack. But like StackDX is the kind of primary product we work on.
Okay, we'll get to StackDX. But you mentioned Petro Ninja, Stack. I feel like we need to take a few steps back, and this isn't your first go around on a technology deal. So take us. I mean, we don't need to hear about your childhood, but unless you want to tell us about your childhood.
I mean, yeah, we'd be here all day,
But kind of take us like college.
Yes.
Did you go?
Yes,
okay.
I went. Yeah, I have undergrad from the University of Saskatchewan, which is the university where I grew up that kind of everybody went to. My husband went to Princeton, and I always say that University of Saskatchewan is the Princeton of Saskatchewan. So it's like same thing, like Ivy League.
Nice.
But if there was only
Ivy
one
League,
university,
US,
yes.
Oh wow,
yeah.
It's amazing.
So we just like similar schools that you've heard of before, obviously.
Yeah.
And to move to Calgary, like everybody was doing at that time, there wasn't a lot kind of going on in Saskatchewan where I was from, and Calgary was the land of energy and opportunities. And so yeah, did business school and then ended up in management consulting. I worked for Deloitte for a few years, implementing really terrible, heavy software. So if you were like a big company, if you're a big oil and gas company implementing SAP, I would show up and be like training and doing like change management work. Like, you're going to love it. SAP is going to be so great. Guys, it was not great. Those were not tough, tough tools to implement, especially like even more so at that time. So got to see like a lot of technology adoption work kind of up front, and got really passionate about that and sort of the organization development side. And then when I was at Deloitte, they sponsored my master's in org development. I went to a small school in California, got a useless master's degree, but it was incredible. I had like a really Fielding, it's called.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Small Santa Barbara, beautiful school.
Okay.
Gorgeous campus. Yeah. Love like Central Coast of California. So pretty.
That's awesome.
And my thesis was about using technology as a catalyst for transformation. And that was kind of the beginning of things. Then I was like, oh, so consulting was awesome. Like, really, consulting years are like dog years. You learn, 4 times as much because you're working 4 times as many hours often. And then, and got to see a ton and worked for a ton of energy companies, mostly in Canada. And then I had the chance to move to a tech company, EnergyLink. Red Dog was the company, like accounting data exchange for revenue and JIB data. A Canadian company, but doing more and more US expansion, and ultimately grew to like, most of the North American industry using that as a platform for data exchange. It was incredible. At an awesome time there. I learned so much and grew with that company. And then we got bought by Jerris in 2020, February 2020.
Okay.
Which was like kind of a wild time. And then, spent some time there, learned a ton from that experience, and got to touch a bunch of different parts of the business there. And then the EnergyLink was owned by the staff, just like Stack is. So we had some capital and some people who wanted to build something again. And that's how Stack kind of got started.
So Stack has been around now for how many years?
About 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe 4.5 kind of commercial.
And you mentioned over the past year or so a total rebranding and some other products. So how did it start out and like versus what it is today?
Yes. So the kind of big idea at the beginning, the DX part of our name stands for data exchange, because at EnergyLink, we saw that lots of the EnergyLink's like effectively the mailman at the very end of the process, sort of shipping the dollars back and forth between the companies. The amount of disputes and sort of data atrophy that happens at the very end of the process is like pretty wild. And the amount of, human capital that goes into managing those disputes is nuts. And all of it comes from sort of the birth of the assets on the land side. So ultimately we saw that problem, but didn't really kind of have the ability or the desire, I guess, at that point to kind of focus on that problem. Where at Stack, we were like, what would this look like if we actually swam up the stream to more of like the origin of a lot of this data, and then work back towards the accounting side. So we started focused on land, and we initially had to build on like getting access to the land system. Still, one of the core parts of the application is integration with land databases, and then digitizing. We worked really hard we have some AI indexes, land files. 50% of the industry was on paper when we started, which thank God.
Which it has changed so much over just the last, like how you said you've been there 4 or 5 years of this company. But like the integration of AI has been, it's been the most monumental, just flash forward for every one of these companies, whether it be super majors all the way down to the mom and pop shops, of how they're utilizing different things now. So it's very unique to hear about this.
Yes, totally. And the sort of wealth of information that was trapped in like filing cabinets, and that is available in public data, and that is available in all of these like siloed systems even that exist inside these companies. So as we kind of scratched the surface and started solving more and more of those challenges, and then added kind of a more of a focus on like the asset life cycle and well data from birth to death, like full kind of life cycle,
Hmm.
facilities and pipeline data as well. And then there was a point early in the company, fortunately, when we realized that we did need a good source of public data and a map. And there was a tool. We were like a little bit familiar with Kevin as the founder of Petro Ninja. And we were like, this time, it was like early stages of the company. We had $16,000 of revenue at Stack. And Kevin had like, he had a profitable company with many clients. And we were like, Kevin, let's merge these companies like 50-50.
We have $16,000.
We have
Yeah,
$16,000. We have like a gleam in our eye, and we got some like good PowerPoint slides and a team that's like
that's
really
all you
fired
need.
up.
All you need.
And he was like, "You got it. Let's do this." We did. He made a conditional on us signing a couple of bigger clients, and we did that, and then merged the companies. Yeah, I think he's best day of his life. I'm sure. Now he never regrets.
Absolutely. So, so when people like for our audience, which I would say, hopefully this international trip that
Mhm.
Jerris is on right now,
Yeah.
establishing relationships between the two countries, which
Right.
might be a little strained right now. I'm not going to
Right.
lie. I'm
Yes.
not going to
It's
lie.
all of
We
the.
want to rebuild this.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a better person than Jerris Johnson to go and
Great
shake those
point.
hands and
Great
make
point.
sure
Thank
that
you. Yeah.
I
Yeah. The
ambassador is my
ambassador.
nickname.
the ambassador Jerris Johnson, that's got to stick, and we got to get business cards that say that. For the primary audience that we have, which is here in the States.
Yeah.
So you've talked about land, you've talked about like end to end, well process. So if people were to look at Stack and
Mhm.
they're to look at like the technology that you guys are providing, what's the main thing that Stack is pushing out there? Is it a easier way that people can access their data? Is it a better way that you guys have found from, I mean, all the way back in the EnergyLink days of being able to provide kind of that end-to-end solution? Like what's the main thing that you're like, this is what we do better than anyone else?
Yes, totally. So the kind of core of the platform is AI driven content management and connectivity into those like proprietary systems. So the way that we solve those
Nice.
problems will be a little bit different depending on where clients are at. And one piece that we do really well is our like virtual data rooms and
Mhm.
asset ingestion process. So
Yeah.
obviously like the nature of the world that we all live and work in is that assets are changing hands multiple times, and the nature of the activities that need to happen, like the due diligence, that's setting up a data room, the due diligence on those assets, the internal due diligence before those things go out the door, getting those pieces set up, and then pushing them out the door and ingesting them, and then
Yeah.
doing all the data health and standardization on the other side is like a core piece of the work that we do, and we do it a few different ways. Lots of it is around kind of data foundations work, connectivity between land and accounting and public data. So that is a lot of it. And then also giving that single pane of glass into looking at assets. So bringing in all of the content and assimilating it and using the AI to ingest it and extract the relevant metadata off of it and connect it to the clients they have.
Does it matter if a client already has like an internal system maybe that they built, or they have we always know the Quorums, the Pelotons, the like
Totally.
the P2s, like there's so
Yeah,
many different softwares out there.
100%.
Does it matter? Or is this one of those things of where you guys are like, hey, we can come in and we can make a difference no matter what you've got?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we are, you know, tech agnostic. We're fortunate to have great partnerships with like all the companies that you mentioned in terms of integrating with those tools. And often we're putting a layer on top. Say in the cases where land isn't integrated to accounting, or their content is stored maybe in like a more traditional content management
For
system.
sure.
Additional value that we can add there.
That's awesome. That's really good. And that's one of those things that we see a lot of these companies needing right now. And the other thing that I wanted to ask you about was, we do know a lot of companies are getting so involved with AI, and it changes from month to month at this point. And like I always like whenever we talk to people on the show and we say something about, the rise of this AI generation for the energy industry. What we talk about on a show in November is almost completely outdated by the
Totally.
time we're talking about it right now.
Doing the math in my head in terms of when the company and the technology and everything started, this started before generative AI or large language models came out. So this is like, you guys already had a product and were already doing things before people began using things like ChatGPT and Claude and Copilot.
Yeah.
How has your business changed creating something that was of value before these AI, like the more prominent AI tools today were in play, and how are those potentially influencing stuff going forward for you?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we are so bullish on the future of AI for the energy industry. And so many of the challenges that we still sort of work on today are that kind of context setting piece. So having a really strong, foundation for context that we can feed into those models is so critical. Like if we were to start this industry over today, the world would look so different. I often think about like, if you were in like manufacturing or something, if you could really like have sort of a fresher start on some of this, how that might look. The reality is we're so encumbered by so much of the vintage on these assets. So the opportunity is really around data health and standardization. Still, we worked on a couple of data rooms and transactions this week where both the seller and the purchaser of the assets weren't crystal clear on exactly the asset list that they had purchased in this case. And so it's fascinating, but it comes from this sort of data atrophy in organizations of like, how many wells do we have? Well, it depends on, are you asking a land person? Are you asking an accountant? Are you asking a PA? Are you asking the drill and completions team? Everybody's the environment team, right? Everybody's sort of window on those assets is slightly different. And that the thing that we're really ambitious to do is to give that consistent view for the organization first, and then secondly to start using and continue using those more modern tools on top of it. We're working with a client right now on a pilot of using an agent to version all of their surveys and plats and validate the content that they have there. And the same, we're working on another one on facility drawings. The same challenge that some of these data sets have been managed by individuals, and then as those assets change hands, the governance around them gets quite tricky. And having a consistent source there is so important. And we can translate a bunch of these tools to remove some of the risk and then dramatically improve the productivity for just where we see humans doing still so much of that data grind.
So at this stage, I mean, there might be people in the US that haven't heard of Stack yet.
Yeah.
But how much success or how big or how well have you done on the Canadian side, I guess?
Totally. Yes. I used to be able to list all of our clients and I can't anymore, but we have like 80 something enterprise clients in Canada, over half the industry by production now.
Fantastic.
And so, the really exciting thing is now starting to work with our first few US clients. So the other kind of piece of that and why I say like we're bullish on the future of AI is that we do have to build sort of commercial grade tools because we've seen the end of 60 something million documents and all of the varieties of the different data sets that we see across the industry. So anything that we kind of introduce has to be fit across all of that and sort of meet the requirements across even all the edges of that data. Yeah. And so the fun part of that has been working closely with clients and really understanding where clients' ambitions are. And we love like the MVP that clients are able to build now with like vibe coding and tools like Cowork.
Yeah.
We have lots of great clients who come to us and are like, look, I built this thing. This is like what I am looking for. We build industry standard software. So lots of our clients now know to be like, yeah, and I've talked to other people. These companies also have this problem. We need you to take this, like, look at this. If this is something you guys want to do, build it in a more like a commercial grade sort of way. So we feel like that by having folks here that are like really connected to some of those industry problems, and then also leveraging sort of the power of our really incredible clients and the tools that are now in their hands and their pockets, that we can also continue that flywheel and continue to really aggressively build.
I think you mentioned this in your intro a little bit, but EnergyLink started in Canada.
Yes.
Had success, moved into the US. And I think probably anybody who is listening or watching at this stage has heard of EnergyLink at this point. So I mean, I guess that move with EnergyLink across the border was like a
Yes.
game changing, life changing business decision. Are
Yeah.
you anticipating that same type of success with Stack? Like, are you applying the
Yeah.
same lessons you learned with EnergyLink and doing that now with the new company?
Totally. Yes, exactly. That's exactly the thing with EnergyLink. Expanding into the US market was incredible. At Calgary and building in Canada is a really great place to build in sort of a smaller market where everyone kind of knows each other, and sort of building something to get ensure that you've handled enough of the edges of the industry and then extend the product worked really well for us in that market. And so is kind of the place that we're at now, and have our first handful of American clients that we're working closely with.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That really is. Where do you see, like, we talk to so many of our guests kind of about the same thing of with technology in the oil and gas field of, I know that any energy company, Canadian, American, any one of them, they deal with that data management problem, right?
Yeah.
They've got so many physical files. I do think that we've seen over the past 10 years, we've seen the great like digitalization wave of so many companies are getting all of that physical files ingested into a great readable like asset. And I think that has been one of the things that has helped data become more structured throughout the entire market, which is fantastic. What do you think kind of the next wave over the next few years? And I mean, this is just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Mm,
But do you have any like direction that you're seeing companies going of where you're kind of excited to see how Stack can move into?
totally. I mean, I think that this is actually something that Jerris has said, so I will steal it. That you can never say that something's impossible now.
Yeah,
That there is so much, like, just even the pace of the change in the last few months has been so wild. And I think it's like a really it's a really interesting opportunity for the folks that deeply understand the industry. I think, like, in the land space, I think that we're going to see the pace of change happen really quickly. So from like a you know deal flow and sort of like the ability to transact quicker, when we're starting to see some of that already, that like a lot of the pace of some of that deal volume and flow is dependent on the pace of due diligence. And so
and
as we're seeing that speed up, things can happen a
l-
lot quicker.
like what you talked about too with those VDR rooms and being able to put things in, like
Totally.
I feel like the time frame of these companies being able to, hey, we possibly are going to have a merger, or we're going to
Yeah.
sell off X amount of $1 billion of assets. I feel like whenever that has been a very long process of analyzing and making sure that they're mitigating risk and all of those down
Yeah.
to the just exact detail. I
Yeah.
mean, it's going to be such a shorter process and such a higher level of confidence in all of these
Yeah.
huge transactions that, like, in my mind, I feel like in a few years we'll see $1 billion transaction back and forth, and it won't be the huge, just like eye widening news that it is today.
So with so many customers in Canada now, Canada oil and gas obviously is a little bit different than the US, but it's not that different. I mean, you
Yeah,
mentioned 70, 80 enterprise clients. So obviously there's a lot of companies doing a lot of activity on this side. When you have two Stack
Mhm.
customers, what does that data transfer look like? Does it become
Yeah.
easier for them to be able to move their files back and
Yeah.
forth?
Yeah. That's really like a lot of the piece that we have been able to automate. So we had a few months ago, we had two of our clients that are some of the bigger public companies execute a transaction that they said, historically would have taken them months, that they were able to do in weeks instead.
it's amazing.
And we were able to keep like a lot fewer people in the tent, because the people with the sort of the access in the organization now have the tech, where previously they sort of had to kind of translate their requirements and have like all the latency associated with that. They were able to do so much more of the work, without needing to wait on other individuals, and get things done quicker. And then, yeah, because it is a stack to stack transaction, they could push the things over on the closing day. And so generally, once a transaction closes, we can have the data ingested, assimilated, and in the hands of the asset teams in a couple days.
It
Yeah,
really
it's
is.
like that's been a really a fun one. And so from even just seeing that and knowing like that that there's even so much more that we could be doing and automating there. There's so much there that is still, like, say, just in the due diligence process that is like it's a pretty human data grind today.
Yeah.
I know is just a decision tree and some things we could do still with a human in the loop, but doesn't need to be as heavy as it is today.
So does this replace existing accounting systems or land systems or production systems? One, if somebody is going to use Stack, do they get rid of those or do they keep them? And then kind of on this data transfer between multiple companies, does it matter if one company is using, tell me your land systems, land right? Or like land view? Like, does it matter if one company is using one and the other one is using the other?
No, totally. So it is typically we build sort of the white space between those systems. Generally, the piece that we replace is like a content management system. But generally, we're sitting, on top of the land system, production system, whatever they're using for like a well master data system. And agnostic of those. So that push can happen regardless of what the seller or purchaser is using.
Yeah.
That's cool. How quick for sitting on top of a system? I know one of the biggest things whenever I talk to companies, it's always, okay, well, we're interested, but how quick could we be up and running? Is it a pretty quick process to be able to get that up and running?
Totally. Yeah. Time to value is one of the things that we care about the most, especially like going back to my old days in management consulting and implementing a lot heavier tools that would sometimes be like millions and millions of dollars and take months and years to do. A typical Stack implementation is 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, we did one this week that was like about 5 days. So it's also dependent on kind of the size of the company. But generally, the thing that we're doing is sort of productizing all of these integrations. And because we're building industry standard tech and continuing to evolve it, it's really just a plug-in for a new company.
On the mapping component, you're able to, so can you see leases and wells and things on the map?
Yeah. So like that visualization and it is like a key piece of it. I think when we started too, we sat with, a bunch of smart land people and asset managers who were like, had a bunch of monitors and sometimes a bunch of paper in their offices. And one would be like their favorite mapping tool, or they would kind of have their maps on the wall. And then one would be, their source of all their sort of data sources on different monitors. And you're like, gotta automatically be creating those maps, because as soon as for lots of our clients before they implemented Stack, they would like push quarterly updates or something like that. It's not fast enough in the industry that we work in today. So we keep all their company layers kind of live and refreshed, and they can access all of the content and the data off of the map too.
Kind of sounds like, because Drew, we can't have an episode without bringing up Chesapeake. But it sounds like that
we are running like 60 episodes long now. It's a standard. We have to talk about it.
It sounds like that CHK search tool that existed.
It does.
It really does. Like, and it's funny because you talk to people who worked at Chesapeake during that time, and nobody ever says this about a company where they worked, but it's like, well, what did you like about working there? And you talk to ex-Chesapeake people, and they will say it was the systems and the tools that we had. Like, they quote that or cite that as a benefit of working at the company, was the tools that they had.
Which is wild, but also totally makes sense. And I think the interesting part there is where there are those incredible tools, right? How do you leverage with things that were great? Because the things that are great about CHK search would be great in any oil and gas company.
Oh, absolutely. It's such once you've been at a company, and after Chesapeake, I went to another one that had something very similar to it. But once you have a web map and the ability to zoom in on that map and see the stuff that you own and click on a link and it takes you to the files, and like, you wonder, it's one of those things like, how did I ever work before this?
Right.
And how will I ever work again
without it?
Not having this? Yeah.
Yes. That was we had a chat recently with the VP land at another oil and gas company, but had the same CHK search observation, and he said that he feels, like 15 years ago, he had so much better access to information in his role than he does today.
I think that's some, honestly, and I mean, I think Jerris and I are very biased with the systems that we've been able to play with in the past, but I think to be compared to like a CHK search or something, no higher praise to be able to have that and to
Oh, yeah.
know that this many years later, how much more advanced a system like what StackDX can put out would be from that already just fantastic, system. So that's really cool. That's pretty amazing.
So a couple of recent episodes that we've had, we had Dagan Boyd with Firmap, and that was a fun conversation. If you haven't listened to that one yet, because not only
Yes.
did we get to learn about Firm, but Dagan's like personal speculations and beliefs on where things will head. We had Jake Anderson talking about data centers and the build out of data centers and what we should believe versus like what's hype versus reality in terms of these build outs. But in your entrepreneurial tech mind, what are things that you look towards for the future where you're like, I think, these are some things that people ought to be aware of that they may not be thinking of right now, or these are things that you're really excited to see your own product or your own company being able to do by leveraging the technology
Sick.
that's popping
Oh,
out.
so many. We could do a whole episode just on this stuff. I think that broadly that even talking more about sort of the like deal flow and kind of transaction pace, that companies are going to be judged more on their data quality, and sort of that pressure is going to drive some different behaviors internally, where I think there were some things that you could kind of hide or like sweep under the rug that will be more difficult. And I think there still are some of these really interesting data sets, and lots of them that are available publicly, that could be leveraged. We are working with a client right now that is found trace oil in some of their gas analysis, and it's sort of informing their next drilling program. But it was like oil, gas analysis was available publicly, but they didn't have the tools to even locate that trapped information previously.
Yeah.
So there's like so many, you could almost talk about it in all like the different kind of facets of the business. Um, on the land side, I think there's just going to be this big productivity lift, and then also pressure because of that, where we still see a ton of data grind that's happening, but that would sort of be more like the defensive, kind of productivity case. I think there is like a more offensive case here too. I think we're going to
Yeah.
see, and we're seeing this already and on kind of both sides of the border, of more teams spinning up and really considering sort of their data foundation and that architecture being a strategic part of the business and how they set things up, and that they can set up a company and run with a lot less overhead than they needed before. Yeah, and I'm also really excited on the subsurface side for the
Yeah.
amount of capital that goes into seismic data and so much of tons of data sets. They're still pretty poorly managed in companies, and we're not getting the full value and benefit of all of that and making them accessible across companies to inform better decision making. I think there's going to be a big lift there on more of the offensive side, and what haven't we exploited yet that we can.
To take the casual term, garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's people are talking a lot about how AI and querying tools and conversational tools and even agentic tools are super powerful, but they're only going to be able to function as good as the data that's being fed into them.
Right.
Do you see Stack as being a product that's going to help people clean their data and get their data in a position to where they can take advantage of these AI tools to greater capacity?
Totally. Yeah. Like I think that's still fundamentally, and I feel like sometimes I sound like a dinosaur when I talk about this stuff, but it is like, it is have the privilege of having a front row seat, working with companies at all sizes, like some of the super majors and some of our, clients that have less than 1,000 wells. The challenges are the same. That in
Yeah.
that data foundation, it has to be clean and obvious of what assets are theirs, where they are on the map, how they are connected, what all of their obligations are, and there are tools now, like Stack, and a lot of where we spend our time on the platform is getting to that data
Mm-hmm.
foundation, and then you have all this context that you can feed in, and then we can solve so much more of the workflows and the value add on top of it. But until that foundational work happens, that's where we see some of the challenges and some of the misses. And clients coming to us too and being like, we built this thing, but let's like tell you this part works. The happy path works. But in this 10% or 20% of the edge cases, it doesn't.
Can I ask one of those like journalist hard hitting question things,
yes.
kind of dig deep? And people, either current customers or potential customers,
yes.
they might be thinking this. And so I'll ask
yes.
it, but you built up EnergyLink,
yes.
great product. It was then bought by Jerris,
Yeah.
which some people might have liked, some people may not have liked. Is that going to be a similar story with this?
Yeah.
Are you building to sell?
No,
that was the
we're
question.
We're not building the company to sell it. One of the challenges with working in tech today, and energy tech specifically, is that there's a lot of private equity money that is coming into the industry. And with that comes, a professional management team and executives that don't have any experience in the industry often. And sort of this pressure on short-term results and not a lot of longer-term thinking and real innovation. So our perspective on that, being a company that's owned, by the staff, is that if we're able to align the interest of our shareholders and our staff, which we just do because they're the same people, we can take care of our clients. And then our clients are incented to stay close to the company and give us, their thoughts on kind of where the industry is heading to. So no, our plan is to run the business for the long term, and we've done a merger and a acquisition so far. So we're looking at both organic growth and we're continuing to innovate internally, and then also where there are other growth opportunities and data pieces that we could tuck into the business too.
Fantastic.
I think that's amazing, and especially to be able to have companies know that this is another one of those good companies that is around for the long haul, will take care of them, and is in it for them and for the success of those other companies. So that's pretty amazing. So if people want to find out about Stack, where do they go? What's the best way to do this?
StackDX.com is our site. Or you can also always message us, hello@StackDX.com. Yeah, happy to chat.
And they can find you on LinkedIn. The rest of the Stack team, I think definitely one to connect with. And this is for the first international real episode. I think this is pretty. I think this is building that bond between these countries that we ever so need right now. Now more than ever.
So needed right now. Yeah.
The ambassador, Jerris Johnson. That's going to stick.
You're welcome. America, Canada, you're welcome.
All right. Well, this has been another fantastic episode. Thank you all so much for joining us again. Any final thoughts from our Calgary friends?
I appreciate it. Like I said, long-time listener, first-time caller. Funny to be on this side of video.
Sometimes we have people who give us fluff and like, oh yeah, I love the show, and they don't ever listen to it. I mean, they're kind. It's so nice to have friends in the business. But Kyla will be like, hey, I really liked episode 23 when so-and-so said this, and this. I mean, she is a devout
so good.
listener.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, that speaks so highly to Kyla's character of listening to really good shows online. I mean, she's not slumming it on low podcast. She's going for the real deal.
Yes,
that's right.
The real deal.
The real deal. Well, for the ambassador Jerris, for Kyla, connect with Stacked, connect with the Real Deal Landman Show. This has been just a great episode, and we appreciate all of you. So until next time, thanks for listening. We'll see you.